Okay, so just a few brief follow-ups. You heard a lot about Ford and Carter in the first video that you watched, and I definitely want you to remember that and maybe rewatch the video, and you took some notes about that based on those questions. But a few things to reemphasize. Ford only serves for 2 years. Sort of a funny story. He becomes the vice president because Spiro Agnew, Nixon's first vice president, was forced to resign the vice presidency because he was facing corruption charges on an incident unrelated to Watergate, which kind of tells you a little bit about how Nixon chooses his friends. But anyway, Ford is definitely well known and potentially cripples himself politically. Before pardoning Nixon, he believed it was the best way for the country to move on and not be so divided for so long, but it definitely makes it look like some people are above the law, some people being Nixon, of course. The video talked about his Whip Inflation Now program and how unsuccessful that was, but I wanted to spend a few moments talking to you about the Equal Rights Amendment. It's one of the big domestic policies that Ford does support, and we kind of skimmed over it earlier in class. So the Equal Rights Amendment, that is a constitutional amendment to say that women and men should receive rights on an equal basis, was proposed and passed overwhelmingly through both houses of Congress in 1972. Then it was sent to the states. Kind of unusually, Congress imposed a deadline on when that amendment had to be ratified by in order to kind of count. The deadline is sort of questionably legal. We're not really sure how valid it is, but certainly nobody's successfully challenged it thus far. And the deadline was supposed to be 1979. Immediately, we had lots and lots of states that ratified the amendment. Texas even was one of the first states, but pretty quickly, as in sort of the mid to late 70s, we begin to see the rise of this conservative backlash. Things have gotten too progressive or too liberal. People are frustrated with the sort of way that government has gone. Most notably, a group called the Eagle Forum, led by a woman named Phyllis Schlafly, are going to form this Stop ERA movement. And through sort of a combination of pretty smart political tactics and fear tactics, they're going to get many states to stall out their efforts to ratify the ERA. They'll say things like the Equal Rights Amendment will require women to be drafted, there's going to be unisex bathrooms, women will be taken away from their mothers. Anyway, these campaigns are pretty successful, and so by 1979, only 35 of the 38 required states have ratified the amendment. And technically, one state, I can't remember now which one it was, sort of rescinded their ratification, but that probably isn't legal either. Anyway, Congress is going to eventually extend the deadline for the Equal Rights Amendment to 1982, but no more states ratify after the 1979 deadline anyhow. And so this sort of shows kind of these challenges or this roadblock that the women's rights movement will come up against in the wake of the sort of women's liberation consciousness raising of the 1960s. Then to mention Jimmy Carter, can I just tell you that he was a really nice guy, y'all. He's a Democrat, and he was a peanut farmer, and his greatest sort of qualification for the presidency was the fact that he's just a really nice guy, and he had been literally miles and miles away from Washington during all of the crises of the Watergate debacle. In fact, he'd been in Georgia raising, growing peanuts. So when he's elected, he doesn't have quite the political skills that are really necessary to be successful in the office. And John Green mentions the kind of challenges that it faced Jimmy Carter economically and the huge political blunder that malaise speech represented. He talks about Carter's foreign policy challenges. So the Iranian Revolution and the hostage crisis are really going to be blights on his record. And of course, the challenges or the controversy over his decision to sign the treaty to allow Panama to regain control over the canal, which officially was turned over in 2000 or 2001, maybe. In any case, before you think like, yay, America, don't forget that American ships that we were using had basically grown to be too wide for the Panama Canal, so they were having to go around anyway, so we didn't really need it anymore. So, America. But anyway, we do want to really celebrate his success at Camp David. It's true that it didn't exactly bring about peace in the Middle East, but the Camp David Accords are going to result in the nation of Egypt, which was a huge leader in Arab politics at the time, officially recognizing Israel's right to exist as a country. Now, they didn't recognize where Israel had the right to exist, so there's plenty of controversy left. But if Arab countries will, like Egypt has, recognize Israel's right to exist as a country, then there are potential diplomatic solutions to the crisis that is the Israel-Palestine conflict. If, as it stands, many Arab countries do not recognize Israel as a country with the right to exist, then there really isn't a diplomatic solution or potential solution, and so then war and terrorism is really the only way to go. So anyway, just kind of a look at some of the foreign policy issues of the 70s. We'll talk in period 9 about the rise of the moral majority and conservatism in the 1980s.